달빛 아래 흩날려라.
Let's go, Yuri! Oh wait, the debuffs aren't applied.
7K dreamer please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're looking at the Halloween special dungeon, and before we actually talk about it, I just want to address the bug with Yuri, or rather the special dungeons, whereby you cannot use PvE mode specializations. Okay, so Yuri doesn't work in the special dungeon, so you have to use Rachel. Anyway, the special dungeon is pretty easy, I would say, but the units are very tanky. They have very high HP and defense, but their skill sets are all super basic, so you don't have to worry too much about them dealing too much damage to you. It's only about, you know, trying to get a fast run if you want to quickly farm this every day. Otherwise, you don't want to be stuck with this dungeon basically. So I'm using Gelidus actually. My Gelidus is kind of high in level, but it's okay if you use a lower level Gelidus, because the point about using Gelidus is so that, you know, you have an AoE effect damage. You can use melee as well. Okay, I'm gonna say it here, you can use melee as well. Basically any AoE DPS you want to use, you can use them here, because there are 5 enemies. So I'm using the bottom skill. After Phoenix, you have to cast Phoenix, otherwise your damage output is going to be super low. Apparently I got blocked over there, so that's quite unfortunate. I'm going to actually use Fenrir's top skill first to buff my lethal and crit damage, and also apply block nullification, because I think they have pretty high block rate, if I'm not wrong. I have tried it later, a few runs actually, and they all were blocking damage very easily. So block nullification is going to be very useful here. You may even want to consider using Regenlave to reduce block rate over time if your team is not strong enough and you are going to take a few, quite a number of turns in this special dungeon. So Regenlave can be useful as well. Then I'm using AoE skill from Gelidus. As you can see, it's very hard hitting, especially if the crit and lethal all procs. Okay, so within just 4 turns, he has already killed off 3 people. Gelidus is very efficient here. And of course his awaken skill, which deals more damage based on the number of fallen enemies, is going to be able to clear the entire field. Okay, so this is my fastest run. I've only tried a few times with Gelidus. I'm gonna just talk about the equipment, and then I'll show you guys a Shane run if you don't have a Gelidus. Okay, these are my masteries basically, physical attack and all that. So for Gelidus, I'm actually using speed. Now why speed? Because if you look at his crit rate and lethal rate, 34% and 20%. 34% you need to think about guild buffs, which add on another 30%. You need to think about Eileen, which add on another 20%. So that's 50% there. So it's 84% in total. I have my masteries at 10% crit rate, so that's 94% chance to crit. Okay. For lethal, I have 20% now. Fenrir and guild buffs give a total of 80%, so that's 100% lethal already. So yes, my crit is slightly on the lower side, and take note, I do have crit and lethal traits as well. So in my case, I've given him increased awakening gauge charge speed so that he can use his awakening gauge earlier. If you want to compensate for the crit, you can actually give him just a crit jewel to increase the crit further to 100% for sure. And of course, standard PvE jewels, physical attack increase and crit and lethal damage increase. Okay, you do see that for his accessory, I have a crit rate accessory. Okay, this is actually the contributing factor to that 14% actually. You can actually go with increased damage on offensive and magic or universal, whichever you want. That's totally fine, but here I'm just using very basic equipment to try to show you guys. Of course, the level of the Gelidus also matters, but I would say, you know, even without a level 50 Gelidus, you should be able to do this dungeon very easily, like even a level 40 or level 44 one. Okay, so please don't think that, you know, it's because I have a level 50 Gelidus. The fact that I can even do this dungeon with Shane later on will show that, you know, it's actually possible to be done. So next up for Fenrir, he's currently on a brawl build, okay, and I didn't really touch him after that. So just make sure he lives with HP armor, along with Eileen as well. Brawl build, HP armor, most importantly. They don't die, I'm pretty sure they won't die because the enemies really do very little damage. And I'm using Seek here, double counter. I have 85% counter. If I can push this even more, I would with the traits, okay. but I think it's quite an okay amount. You may not even use Seek because Seek won't cool down Gelidus efficiently. So I'm using Shane here to show you guys a different kind of team. The run will definitely be longer because Shane is a single target damage user. So double crit, the reason for double crit is because Fenrir, again I said 50% and 30% guild buffs gives you 80% plus 20% lethal in total, so that's 100% already. So I'm giving her crit. You can even go with speed, like the Gelidus build is totally fine because it's the same kind of permanent buffs. For her jewels, standard jewels for her skill cooldown, which is still bugged actually, and later on I will show you guys that Shane's cooldown is actually very bugged in the special dungeon. I don't know why, but it just seems to be the case. And it's quite disturbing because you cannot effectively chain Shane's attacks, and her cooldown is just way too high for all the synergy and the speed that you want. So first things first, again, use Rachel's top skill, cast the Phoenix. Phoenix is super important, so in future when they actually fix the special dungeon usage for PvE specialities, you can use Yuri over here instead and she will do the same thing. Then of course using Shane's only skill to kill off one hero, so she can effectively kill off one hero per skill. Okay, and if you actually let her go first somehow, she can use her effect attack. Her effect attack will also kill off one enemy per effect attack. It is that strong basically. Here I cast the block nullification. Fenrir does pretty decent damage as well in a PvE setting, and you can see that Shane is still on cooldown. I don't know why it is the case, but after she uses her attack, her cooldown is at its maximum. That is, 50 seconds. It's not even like the usual 30 seconds which we see. And you can see that Shane completely overkills. Okay, so you may not even want to use her awaken skill. You can just use the regular skill to kill off the enemies one by one. So I'm just awakening her here because I want to reset her cooldown fast enough so I can use the skill again. But I think it's not really necessary. Because by the time all this countering and animations happen, Shane is probably ready to already use her skill. Yeah, so another overkill situation here. Then I'm using Rachel's bottom skill to actually cool down Shane, because she can reduce cooldown by 30 seconds, and this is actually the same thing as Yuri. Okay, if you actually compare Rachel to Yuri, the only difference between Rachel and Yuri is that for Rachel, her cooldown skill and her debuff skill is on different skills, but for Yuri it's on the same skill. So in the case where you need to rapidly cool down your skills, I don't think Yuri is going to be very efficient because she may still be on cooldown with her debuff skill, with that particular skill, you see. So it's very hard to say who is actually better, but as you can see here, Shane is actually able to clear the dungeon as well. So you don't have to worry too much if you don't have a Gelidus or an AoE DPS, which is Amelia. Okay. And we are going to talk about the synthesis event. With pumpkin candies, you can actually synthesize for jewels. These jewels, subset stones or jewels. Cookie tickets, okay? These ghost cookies are actually 7 Night of Old Awakened Jewels. Awakened 7 Night of Old Jewels, but in a different form. So it's very worth it to do. And if you can see here, you need about 7 tickets. 7 candies for a ticket, and you need 10 candies for a selector. So if this event is about 2 weeks, you will do the math and you will realize that for free-to-play players, you can get 2 tickets, but if you go for the selector, you can only get 1. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind. Make your choice carefully. If there's something you are very sure that is necessary for your team to progress, then I think the selector is better. But if you want, just have more things to play around with, you can go for the tickets, and hopefully you get the one you want. I think most of the tickets are actually pretty useful, pretty usable, because after all, they are 7 out of old jewels are world boss jewels with an additional substat that complements the main substat, right? So I think you may want to gamble with the ticket, And there's also the Celestial Accessory event, whereby you can use Gelidus Isabella accessories to synthesize for Celestial accessories. And make sure you use like accessories that you don't really need anymore. Like for instance, I'm using the Isabella's Curse, which I really don't need. Of course, you can mix and match around different combinations of accessories so that you still have some spare of each, but you don't have too much of one. You know what I mean? So here I'm using the Deception and the Curse to get one selector, and basically it's kind of like an inventory clearance, I would say, which is really good because for a very long time all these useless accessories have been taking up so much space. Yeah, so that's all I have for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for more guides. Thank you so much and see you.